Seems to me you're just plain scared.
Yes. Yeah, I am. I met her 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left. No reason, no conscience, no understanding, and even the most rudimentary sense of life or death, of good or evil, right or wrong. I met this 20-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. I spent 8 years trying to reach her, and then another 7 trying to keep her locked up, because I realized that what was living behind that girl's eyes was purely and simply evil.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Juju Panda back, and I should talk about something else today, but something else, it's going to be tangentially related to the whole Christian drama. I say tangentially or directly, depending on how you look at it, because whenever there's a tragedy or a crisis that just unfolds, there's a lot more underneath the surface that is not readily apparent to the masses, you know what I mean? Like, there's always some sort of, like, a string of backstories that contribute to the overall series of events as they play out. In this case, this one was more or less directly related to what actually came out, because if not for the activities of this particular individual, the leaks wouldn't have happened on June 30th, I should say July 30th, 2021, and we wouldn't be here today. We wouldn't be talking about this because none of us would know what was going on. I'm of course referring to Isabella Janke. Yeah, she was the voice of Bella, quote-unquote, from the, like, WikiLeaks. Those audio logs that detailed a female with very bad mic quality, speaking to Christian Weston Chandler, otherwise known as Christine Chandler, or Christian if you prefer. So yeah, it was kind of a shocking revelation. At first, I was under the impression, like, I'm just going to be completely honest with you all, I was under the impression that this was just a well-meaning troll, and that they were keeping a straight face and a straight act to sort of just, you know, lull Christian into a false sense of security to share information with her. That is not the case, because this sort of, like, story is just basically a rabbit hole of insanity, alright? The deeper you go, the more details come out, the more disgust builds in your stomach as you learn, like, more about the individuals involved. And I said in my last video that this is not a story of heroes and villains. This is a story of, like, villains, straight up, just basically the entire Suicide Squad left to run amok and go at each other instead of fighting crime, alright? They are pretty degenerate individuals, to be honest with you. But that's not really the topic of discussion for this particular video. For this one, we're going to be honing in directly on Bella, aka Isabella Janke. So yeah, she's a Texas Tech student, Texas Tech University. She is an engineering major, from what I can gather. And she had aligned herself with various other quote-unquote Zoomers, in a Discord channel, of all things, and they were masquerading as a chess club of that particular university. They did not actually play chess, as far as I can gather. What they did was they all got together and basically talked about edgy things, things that normal people wouldn't normally glorify, like rape, death of minorities, and things like that. Just what they did. People were labeling her as a cult leader, basically leading this cult of, you know, outcasts, and doing illicit activities on the side. Like, for instance, multiple members seem to have contributed to the torture and, you know, dissemination, like, the torture and destruction of small animals. For instance, Isabella Janke herself, she had, you know, a history of acquiring small animals, like a small dachshund, a cat, several gerbils, or hamsters, and would, either through neglect or willful acts of destructive, like, harm to the animal, would destroy them in various ways. And for the hamsters, there's at least one confirmed instance where one was boiled alive, and she actually recorded it. And screen caps surfaced online, you know? It's truly sickening stuff. And Isabella herself has some disturbing qualities to her. She might look outwardly attractive, some people thought, But one, she doesn't seem to take good care of herself because she has like recurrent fungal infections on her cuticles, affecting her fingernails and toenails, and she has like a strangely pockmarked face, which leads me to believe that either she has bad skin or she is suffering from the less pleasant aspects of drug abuse. Either way, she is not quite as she seems. Maybe it's like a twisted sense of fate where she's becoming like the more like, evil that she engages in, she starts to like assume the qualities physically, like, her sins start to manifest themselves like physically. So she's starting to degrade slowly as time goes on, but probably not. But yeah, what was Isabella's role in all this? The reason that, like, there's so much attention and interest in Isabella is that when the leaks happened, this was not coordinated by the Kiwi Farms, this was not coordinated by the Trolls. In fact, Null, like, the head of Kiwi Farms, he was actually going out of his way to try to help Chris, because, Null's a good person, and Chris has been abused quite enough throughout the history of their life. I'm sure that Null recognized that, and so they were trying to organize a care package consisting of monetary aid to aid Christian through, hardship and pain. The problem is, when Christian had lied to Null, and he had also basically completely misrepresented the situation that was going on, well, Null obviously felt a little bit, less inclined to help Christian and, refunded everybody that had contributed money to see that Christian was going to be supported. Because, Christian doesn't deserve that payout after doing the dirty with his mom. Alright? However, the question remains, how culpable is Isabella as far as Christian raping his mother? Well, it's known that for at least a span of time, Isabella was friends with Christian. She had worked her way into his life and convinced him that she was a friend, and that she was willing to hear him out, help him, and, maintain contact with him throughout the time that they were together. The problem is, Isabella had ulterior motives in mind. Me personally, I don't believe the fact that she, directly influenced Chris to rape his mother, because it's been known for a long time now that there were sort of questionable relations between Christian and his mother, like hints at, an incestuous affair. Now, I don't think it ever happened before, the past month, to be honest with you. But at the same time, it was creepy how Christian got close to them. And I already told you, in a past video that I watched, one of the commenters on that particular video, it was basically, they started, the financial crisis when Christian was freaking out and demanding and begging people to give them money, buy the stuff off of eBay. Who's eBay? I don't know, but, obviously Christian meant himself, but they didn't specify in the video. But they're, screaming into the camera that the mortgage is really due tomorrow and that they need to pay, $200, $300, and one of the people was just like, dude, this Christian is not like the old Christian, alright? If Barbara Chandler were to die tonight, Christian would probably, not report the death and try to do something with the body, because this Christian isn't like the old one. People had recognized that Christian, this particular incarnation of Christian in this particular timeline, they are not the old Christian, alright? They're a little bit demented and deranged, alright? I wouldn't really put it past Christian, knowing what they're capable of, to have engaged in necrophilia. If it meant getting, pussy, alright? I'm not trying to be crass when I say all this, I'm just being real. And if I seem like I'm just not really affected by all this, when I first heard about it, I was shocked, but at this point, I'm just kind of desensitized to the whole thing. Alright, I thought the Kiro the Wolf, whole debacle was enough to desensitize me. This just added it even further. I'm just detached from all this. It is shocking as all hell, but at the same time, it's I'm not outwardly going to show that, alright? So anyway, to continue. Isabella had been in contact with Christian. You notice that throughout their conversation, Isabella was strangely interested and fixated and kept the conversation going. She didn't express any disgust or, I guess, worry that or concern that Christian had done the dirty with his mom. She wanted all of the lurid details. There's a reason for this. Because these leaked audio calls were not supposed to see the light of day, alright? These were supposed to be saved away and tucked away only for Isabella's access, as well as a third party. I believe Fiona, possibly, but possibly just a close contact of hers. I will tell you all what I think in a couple minutes here. I just want to set the background to all this. So, Isabella had been engaged with Christian, and she wants all the door details. Her modus operandi, because she was guilty of this in at least one instance, supposedly a fellow, Texas Tech University alumni that had basically committed suicide. And Isabella was, directly involved in that suicide, basically stressing the person out, like manipulating them onto the path of suicide, and they took their own life, which is truly tragic. But it should show you that Isabella clearly has ulterior motives in why they engage with Christian. And if you're wondering why they engage in Christian, well, Christian is claiming to be transgender. I don't personally buy into that because their reasoning for being transgender is dubious as all hell. I think they're more confused and crazy, but that's just me. If you want to call Christine Chandler, that's your right to do so. I will respectfully disagree and move along. Alright, so Isabella has a strange hatred of transgender people, alright, to the point that they want to make them the targets of harassment and abuse. This is all being coordinated on that Discord server, by the way, the ones that they had. If you watched my prior video, you'll know that that server is no longer available, but screen caps are resurfacing on the daily of illicit activities that were engaged in that server, as well as the content and subject matter that they would discuss. Alright, so she wants to basically put Christian on the path of suicide, while extracting some monetary and financial gain from them. Alright, that's not surprising to me. However, what all of those chat logs, those audio logs that you heard, those were supposed to be contributing items to basically build a dossier of blackmail material. That's what Isabella wanted. They wanted to, I guess, string Christian along. They supposedly wanted to film Christian having sex with an underage girl at a brony convention, and she wanted to film Barbara and Christian doing the dirty. Why did she want to do all this? Well, blackmail material in her own sick-ass fashion. That's pretty terrible, but Isabella herself displays some disturbing qualities. She seems completely unfazed by any of her actions, and she herself, if you try to engage with her, she is very manipulative and very evasive and will straight up lie to you, even in the face of empirical fact. Alright? So I highly discourage any of you all to try to reach out to her for comment, because you're probably going to get the runaround, or at the very least, probably not going to get the answers that you want. You're going to get the ones that you might want to hear, but I doubt it. So yeah, what's interesting about Isabella, though, is that she comes from a fairly affluent background, as in her parents have deep connections with the United States government. Excuse me, my throat's getting a little clogged here. Alright, her father is he was supposedly a Navy SEALs dude, alright? And her mother is a Secret Service agent, I believe, but I don't know the validity of all this. Again, we only know the names, alright? And knowing the full name of Isabella, Isabella Loretta Janke, that's pretty damning. That means that Kiwi Farms or people that knew her have basically doxed her. However, they also use this information to report her to Texas Tech, University, and basically be like, yo, this girl needs to be looked into, alright? And Texas Tech is actively investigating her. Also, around the time that all these leaks were coming out and all this conversation and interest was focused on, Isabella, what's strange is that the Kiwi Farms went down. There was a massive DDoS attack. Isabella always claimed that she was a hacker. She basically managed to extract money from Christian, or probably engaged in social engineering to get the passwords out of them, and had managed to get some money, $500 at least, supposedly to buy a camera so that she could film, Christian doing the dirty with an underage girl at a brony convention. I believe the underage girl is Fiona, I believe, but we're going to get into that in a bit. So yeah, she was basically seeking to extract money from Christian, it seems like. Not something that people haven't already tried to do in the past, because Christian's fairly gullible. I wouldn't be surprised if Christiane freely shared their banking information with Isabella. But yeah, it's strange that she's engaging in all this behavior in spite of the fact that, she came from such an affluent background. And the idea that's sort of built in people's minds right now as to her background is that she's basically a rich bitch that, thinks she's above the law, thinks that she can do whatever she wants, and is cold as ice. Like, she is the Ice Queen, alright? You know how the Ice King in Adventure Time? She's the Ice Queen, except she's actually evil and destructive. Mostly just, manipulating people into doing what she wants. She wants people to dance like puppets, I suppose, around her. Anyway, hopefully you're not the target of her, her manipulations, but who knows? I don't know what demographic you all are. Anyway, yeah. So it's been suggested that Isabella is the one that planted the seed in Christian's head to rape his mother. I don't believe that to be the case. I think she definitely pushed Christian over the edge. Like, it had always been a consideration in Christian's mind to fuck his mom, but he always had some sort of level of hesitance. The way that Christian shared information with Isabella, he was fully cognizant on how wrong it was, so he was definitely uncertain when Isabella, asked some pretty bold questions of him, basically trying to get the whole juicy details out of Christian in his own words. And Christian was hesitant, but he, relented and would share freely. The fact that he shared freely is kind of abhorrent to me, but hey, are we really surprised at this point, given everything that's happened? I guess not. Anyway, Isabella herself, her grand plan, she wanted to, parade herself. She was doing all this for clout, number one. Number two, she wanted to parade herself as, the greatest troll of all time, at Chris's expense. That's not really trolling. Trolling is kind of like pranking, There's different levels of that. What Isabella was doing was just cold-hearted evil. Yeah, I don't think too many people would disagree with me if that was her grand plan, and she was already successful with at least one other student at the same school that she goes to. Because, at this point, this is anecdotal when I say this, but it feels like a lot more young people out there, or even people my age, are in sort of a mentally fragile state. It doesn't take a whole lot of stress and other suggestive manipulation to get them to kill themselves, I wouldn't imagine. Hopefully not, but a lot of people will make the passing joke or do risky behaviors that basically lead me to believe that they might be potentially suicidal. I genuinely hope not, but it just, anecdotally, it seems like I see that more often every day. And now that you have people that are noticing this, or at the very least are willing to try their hand to push them over the edge to do it, ugh. Anyway, Isabella herself is not a very good person, as you might have already gathered. As in, I already mentioned that they were, collecting all these animals. There was a dachshund named Max that she had basically neglected. She allowed the dog to basically rot in its own filth. And for what benefit, I don't understand. I guess she wanted to be in the care of a small dog and not feed it, not take care of it, not see that its basic needs to survive and live were met, and to just watch it wither away into nothing. I just can't believe. And there's a couple of photos that are circulating online of her holding a small black dog. The small black dog is Max, alright? The hamsters and gerbils, I just don't even have words to describe how abhorrently evil that is, because these are small creatures, they're fluffy, small creatures. Sure, hamsters can be kind of ferocious, but, you never want to just crush or kill one, And the saddest thing about all this is that quote-unquote cult that she was running with online, on Discord, they were all, at least procuring the same material online, the same content, imagery, or small clips or videos or GIFs. They were all circulating that stuff throughout the server. And in some cases, some of them were actually engaging in similar behavior to what Isabella had been doing. She has some very peculiar, how would you say this, proclivities as far as the sexual nature. She purposefully feeds her cat Goober. Goober is a cat, by the way. So she purposely feeds the cat rancid food to get it to shit, very nasty shit, so that she can smell that in her apartment, which is disturbing. But she also purposely overfeeds it to make it unhealthy, because she gets a sixth sense of satisfaction out of that too. Yeah, it's fairly strange. And she has like bad hygiene. Like, I'm not surprised given all this stuff. She also seems to be suffering from incontinence, or has maybe, I wouldn't say a diaper fetish, but like she's definitely shit her own briefs a couple times, her own panties, you know. Like, there was even a picture floating around supposedly of her carpet in her, like, you know, apartment. I can only imagine like what her state of living is, what her lifestyle is like, and I don't want to. I kind of want to pour bleach in my eyes now, based on what little I already know of her. But yeah, it's surprising that her parents still fund her lifestyle, you know? They send a couple $100s to her so that she can do whatever, live the alumni lifestyle on campus, and be the cool girl that everybody looks to for support. But what's strange is that a lot of people have actually come forth to share their own testimonials on their interactions with, you know, with Isabella here. And their testimonials will correspond mostly with what we already know. Basically, they had seen a lot of disturbing imagery on her Discord channel, and that she as a person seemed to exhibit some psychopathic tendencies, which is not too surprising given everything that's happened up to this point. So, yeah. Isabella, like, there's a couple videos of her floating around. There's just so many pictures, and it's so strange. Like, you'd think that somebody that had such grandiose ideals for the future would have done a little bit better to keep her, like, you know, her trail, like, covered, or at least cleaned up her trail, wiped, like, you know, the trail down, made so that it was a little bit harder for us to, like, search on her, because the fact that, like, people can recognize her and pin her out from, like, a photo. Also, Christian confirmed this, because she had shared her, like, picture with Christian. Christian wouldn't have just gotten that, alright? Like, she had to have shared it with him. As far as, like, the extent of their interactions, it seemed like Isabella was still at a fairly... I would say she was at the middle stage of her grand plan, alright? Not quite to the point where she was able to manipulate Chris to do something, like, truly abhorrent, but getting there, you know? Fomenting that trust, that sense of, like, connection with Christian. And supposedly her plan, at least from what we've gathered from, like, what people would share about her, was that she wanted exclusive control over Christian for her future aims. Those aims being, like I said, blackmail, coercion into suicide, things like that. Seems like she wanted to get Christian in a financially desperate situation so that Christian would be stressed out and more vulnerable to, you know, more emotional tactics on her part. But, you know, thankfully, this was put to rest based on leaks. The leaks came from, like, a third party that was in contact with Christian or Isabella. Possibly both, because Fiona, like, the name Fiona was mentioned several times by Isabella, which leads me to believe that Fiona is an important person of interest. I believe she was the victim, as in, like, you know, the influences of Isabella on Fiona leads me to believe that she might actually be the young girl that she was trying to get Christian hook up with, because if you hear in, like, the audio logs, she mentions Fiona a couple times, and she basically says, don't you think you should be going out with somebody a little bit younger, like your age? Like, why not Fiona? Fiona really likes you. And Fiona, as far as I know, or at least the young girl that Isabella was trying to get Christian to bang at BronyCon, Fiona, like, I'm going to say synonymous right now, on the pretext that maybe I'm wrong. I could be completely wrong about this. I fully admit to all of you. But I'm starting to think, you know, it doesn't, let's employ Occam's razor here for a second. Fiona's probably the young girl. And if the stories online are true, then the young girl, Fiona, quote unquote, they have basically been institutionalized at this point. Like, their mental state is fragile at best, and their internet access has been taken away from them. They've gone quiet, and it seems as though their parents stepped in and intervened and sought to gain mental help for their daughter, which is good on them. But The damage has already been done. I have no idea what Isabella was doing to Fiona, because she seemed like she wanted complete control over Fiona as well, as a pawn for her schemes, and might have actually expressed a sexualized interest in Fiona, while she was trying to coax Christian into doing something with Fiona. Isabella seems to be. She has a preference for, like, females, so she's a lesbian. She wanted to have Fiona for herself after the fact, if the whole thing with Christian didn't go down as she planned. So yeah, interesting and very disgusting at the same time. Alright, so as you can see, this monkey cage is a hell of a lot more crazy than we suspected. What happened to the Discord server? Well, if you watched my last video, it's been wiped from the face of the earth, or at least face of the cyber, face of, cyberspace. It's been wiped completely down. Basically, they had been self-reporting themselves to admins to have the entire server wiped, and they've been posting, like, raunchier images. Various screen caps continue to come out, so it's not like they completely walked away scot-free, because we have plenty of material to parse over and to formulate for ourselves an image for the people involved. However, tying usernames to actual real-life names is a little bit of a challenge. Not for Isabella, but, for other people, because a lot of these people have been described as being young adults. Presuming, I'm just going to go ahead and assume, like, college age all the way down to, like, tweens, Anybody that had a fascination and fixation with Christian. And you had some edgelords amongst the mix that were into the edgier, harder stuff than people like you and me would probably look at and, waste their time on, but I digress. So, Isabella is probably going to be expelled from Texas Tech University. That's the hope, anyway. Because if somebody like that, just on the campus alone, and having they are what I would describe as an agent of chaos, alright? Not in, like, a playful way, because I've known agents of chaos. They do things just because they can. Isabella has a clear, like, sign of being a psychopath, alright? They feel no remorse for their actions, they see other people as tools, a means to an end, and she herself cannot take responsibility for her actions, and it's been suggested by various people out there that she herself actually doesn't have a personality of her own. She just sort of molds herself to whatever people are around her to fit the situation and make things go a little smoother than they would otherwise. And probably, when left alone, is under the bout of crippling depression. That's just what's been speculated. It's really too early to make all these grand, observations. But at the same time, it stands to reason, And her parents, at least the father, supposedly has been leaving rude comments on people that criticize his daughter. Like, saying all this huff and bluff about how she's a loving, caring, sweet girl. And it doesn't really surprise me that a parent would do that for their child. The problem is, he doesn't see her the way that the rest of us see her. He's going to he's going to put on those blinders to just, blind himself to the fact that his daughter is basically a monster. But are we really surprised? I certainly am not. Anyway, he was a venerated veteran Navy SEALs operative, supposedly. Some people were offhandedly asking if there was any validity to the claims. The problem is, a lot of this is coming from the Kiwi farms, and it really comes down to what you think is legitimate information, alright? The fact that we know any of this, like pieces of evidence, like the audio logs, that is a strong piece of evidence, because that is something that you actually heard. It wasn't cooked up by some people that were, like, absolute experts in audio manipulation to try to piece together and cobble together a conversation between Christian and a troll. This was something that was freely spoken and recorded by Isabella and a contact and Christian, without Christian's knowledge, I'll have you know. And there's, like, been suggestions that Isabella is actually innocent of all this, and that this is all just some grand conspiracy cooked up by Kiwi farms to really get her goat. And it's like, what is the benefit from all this? Obviously, finding somebody that is completely innocent of any wrongdoing and like accusing them of some pretty abhorrent things is pretty shitty. Like, you never want to be guilty of that. Whenever you make like accusations to somebody about something that they're guilty of or that they are, responsible for, you need to have a modicum of proof and evidence on your belt, and you need to be like 100% sure that you are right about what you're doing. So maybe not make accusations, maybe just make inquiries, see if they match up to what your evidence is, and, go from there, if you're going to be conducting your own personal investigation on anything. But Kiwi Farms, being a conglomerate of various independent individuals throughout the World Wide Web that come together for the sole purpose of cracking cases. I say that because it's not really the purpose of the website. The purpose of the website is to laugh at people that are weird or unusual or maybe have caught the interest of people online as lolcows. That is the primary purpose of Kiwi Farms, alright? You should always bear that in mind whenever you see anything on the Kiwi Farms, because Kiwi Farms, they just want to laugh at people behind their back, but at the same time, they seem genuinely interested in uncovering a mystery that presents itself, especially if it occurs within the online space. And is that a bad thing? That last part, not, but the earlier parts, some people would argue that their methodologies for getting keks out of people is extreme, because they are not afraid to dox people. They're not afraid to write all the, whatever intimate details that you might want to keep secret. They have no qualms, spreading that far and wide, making it public knowledge. So obviously, Kiwi Farms ain't exactly high on some people's lists as far as credible news outlet. But at the same time, what reason do they have to lie? You have to ask yourself, what benefit do they get out of lying about somebody? Because they want credible information. In fact, members of the farms, they will actually haze people that try to spread misinformation. They have a strong sense of, hey, just the facts. But they're not afraid to add their shitty commentary on top of that. It really depends on the person, honestly. I've seen some various comments that were just blatantly unnecessary. But at the same time, a lot of them seem just, honed in on getting the facts. Alright? I'm not defending Kiwi Farms, by the way, but at the same time, I'm not going to condemn it either. It's a conglomerate of people that are laughing at other people's expense. If that bothers you, that's something for you to consider, but at the same time, it has provided us a wealth of documented evidence and information as far as Kira the Wolf is a more recent example, also the Christian thing, which is why the Kiwi Farms exist in the first place, ironically, and everything that's come up to date. And Isabella just happens to be a key player in this most recent span of drama. By the way, Isabella's actions and behavior do not exonerate Chris Chan from what he did. He's, going to go to court September 16th, 2021, first official court date. It's going to really decide how things play out from here, because Chris Chan is going to face responsibility one way or the other for their actions. That is not a bad thing. But there's also a lot of unanswered questions as to what has happened to cause all this. What is the lead up to the momentous revelation on June 30th, 2021, July 30th, 2021. I keep saying June because I keep feeling like summer's not over, and technically it's not, but it's definitely in the dog days of summer now because it's already August. Time flies, man. But yeah, there's not a whole lot more I could say right now about Isabella. I just want to provide you all a overview of who Isabella Janke is, and her culpability in all of this, and some of the key players. There's obviously more, but Isabella seems to have gone on damage control right after the leaks came out. Because the most damning thing that I can mention right now is that the leaks were never supposed to see the light of day. That was supposed to be only accessible to Isabella. Somebody panicked, whether it was Fiona, quote-unquote, or a close contact that Isabella had confided in. Those leaks were definitely leaks. It was not supposed to come out that way. And, the trail led right back to Isabella because she was a central figure in, saving all of those leaks for blackmail material later. So yeah, anything that happens online stays online, and, it will follow you at a certain point if you try to lie, deny, or cheat your way out of it. So yeah, that's why some people, they abide by the principle of whatever you say, no matter how stupid or offensive it might be, they don't delete it. And it's something that a lot more of us should probably adopt. But in an age where it feels like there's the illusion that you can just delete things, like for instance, say you said something dumb to your friend. Uh-oh, that makes you look like an idiot. Better delete that. I bet you somehow, somewhere, somebody will have knowledge of that. It's going to be, that action is going to be recorded on your account. There's going to be some sort of a trail online existent. It's going to be traceable to you. And you can change your username, you can change, various other aspects of your identity, but your behavior is not going to change, and various things can be traceable back to you. The funny fact is that Isabella tried to claim that this was a mass conspiracy because the QB Farms has nothing better to do than to get together and fabricate information, detailed information about people to get their jollies off. It wouldn't surprise me, but at the same time, I'm sure that a lot of the people there have something better to do with their lives than to meticulously try to craft a narrative around somebody. So yeah, that don't fly with me. But anyway, with all this stated, I think I'm just going to go ahead and end the video here in a few minutes here. As far as what's happening with Isabella right now, well, I mean, she's probably freaked out because she's being looked into by the campus administrators, and whether or not she gets to stay at Texas Tech University, well, it remains to be seen. But getting kicked out, that'll be the least of her worries, because some of the things that she's been guilty of, like coercing somebody into suicide, the abuse of various small animals, being the white supremacist that's a cult leader, I don't see a lot of information about the idea of the Discord server being, the hotbed hangout joint of a bunch of cultists. Because, a cult has sort of religious undertones to it. I don't see it as religious. It doesn't seem like it's a cult. It definitely seems like a group, an organization, or a clique of disenfranchised youths that want to sow dissent and chaos in their own way by manipulating other people into committing suicide or dangerous acts. Yeah. Isabella, I forgot to mention, Isabella had also, acquired an underage ID from a contact. Either she socially manipulated the person or social engineering, employed a little social engineering to get that. Supposedly so that she could engage in illicit activities that were, would be untraceable to her. Traceable only to the identity on the card. To what sense or purpose, whether it was to buy cryptocurrency or to, maybe engage in arms dealing or something, I don't know. But obviously, with somebody like this and her track record for being a psychopathic individual, probably not for good activities. Let's just put it that way. And I really hope that she gets barred from adopting small animals from here on out because, Max suffering in his own filth and just wasting away to the point that he had paw infections and had to be cut up and amputated and then just died anyway. I can only imagine the suffering that dog had gone through, It just tugs at the heartstrings. Goober is still alive, but obviously not in a good bill of health, more than likely, given the fact that Isabella purposely gives him rotten food to, get him to shit really shitty shit so that she can get that smell because it gets her rocks off. I'm not entirely sure how that works, but there's some disgusting kinks and fetishes out there that maybe I don't want to know. Honestly, at this point, I don't want to know. Hopefully all those gerbils can be avenged someday because having one boiled alive in a fucking pot like it's, chicken dinner. Something that I forgot to mention is that Isabella actually tried to acquire something highly illicit, something that is only available online or possibly in print form. I've never seen it in print form, so typically online, I'm just going to say CP, okay? Chernobyl MPP or something like that. Take the first two letters of any, variation of, words I'm going to tell you. Child's Play, great movie. Came out in the 80s about a killer doll that was trying to kill the kid that was, had adopted it. Cheese pizza, a little bit bland for my taste. I prefer a little pepperoni on top, but Anyway, okay, so for as far as the euphemisms go, you know what I'm talking about probably by now. CP, she tried to acquire that stuff, and she was actually approached by the police about her in regards to her searching for it. All right, high illicit should be testament to what she's into, I suppose. She seems to like them young, and if there's any indication as to how she likes them young, she was trying to hook up with Fiona, which Fiona is the third party that we're loosely aware of. I believe it's the underage girl that she was trying to hook up with Chris and then get for herself after, Chris Chan was out of the picture. That is the narrative that has formulated in my mind based on an interpretation of all the events that have led up to date. And I could be completely wrong with that, but the fact that she tried to look up CP should be enough of an indicator that she probably likes him young. Just something to add to the whole background information that is coming out about Isabella by the day, and it's really reprehensible, but at the same time, it's just one more tally mark on indicating that she's an absolutely piece of shit of a person. Anyway, let's continue. So yeah, the Christian thing, that wasn't it. That was just that's what got everybody's attention. There's recurrent questions and answers coming out on the daily and revelations about everything that had led up to that point. And this whole rabbit hole of insanity, it's going to get a hell of a lot deeper before it just gets closed up, We don't have answers to all the questions out there. But in time, maybe somebody's willing to share something and people are willing to collate and compile documentation to attest to certain things that we already know. So, I'm going to go ahead and end this video here because I think I've talked about the subject matter to great length. I wasn't really expecting to make another Chris Chan related video, but there you go. I felt like it needed to be said because everything surrounding Isabella is, a lot deeper than what I was, considering when I first heard about all this after the whole Chris Chan leaks came out. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed the video. Until next time, guys, take care and peace. I hope you all have a better one.